Buttons and Rusty in Which Witch is Which? The Rusty and Buttons cartoons are a series of 1980s animated holiday specials produced by the former Disney animator Ed Love. They follow the adventures of Rusty the Fox and Buttons the Bear, who live in Chucklewood Forest with their families, who both live in the same cave for some reason, and their friend Park Ranger Jonesy.
Now, first off, didn't I tell you to stay away from the trailer park?
But why? This is our home. Yeah, if humans don't like us, why don't they stay in the city?
I guess because there are too many people down there.
Well, if you ask me, there are too many people up here.
Yeah, but after all, they own all this country, so...
Own it? I thought the forest belonged to everybody.
Whoa, all of a sudden this turned into a Columbus Day special. This whole thing is really one big comedy of errors. You see, Rusty and Buttons are naturally curious about Halloween.
I suppose this party's just for human types?
I'm afraid so, Buttons.
Upset that they can't go to the park ranger's party, Buttons and Rusty decide to trick-or-treat on their own.
Who needs people?
Well, you need humans to give you the treats, unless you want to try the... oh no.
Trick or treat!
Huh? What's that supposed to mean?
Why, it means you gotta give us a treat.
Be right back!
This ought to be good for a couple of nuts.
Does this forest have coconut trees? Meanwhile, there are these two burglars, and one of them is dressed like a bear, which the two fathers mistake for Buttons.
Just wait till I get my paws on you, you little monster!
Then later on, Buttons and Rusty mistake the two for another bear and fox, and want to ask them how they trick-or-treat. Everyone thinks someone is someone else. There's even a big-lipped alligator moment depicting this.
Which is which and who is who? Why doesn't someone tell me which? Which is which?
What do these two random witches have to do with thieves, a bear, and a fox? I don't know. By the end, the criminals get caught red-handed, and Rusty and Buttons don't get to go to the Halloween party. At first, I thought this was an insult, but when I remembered what happened earlier...
Wow! A fox! And a bear! And the fox caught the frisbee! Sing 'em, Rocky! Go get 'em!
I thought, yeah, you keep those innocent little souls away from those vicious monsters.
You see why I couldn't mix Rusty and Buttons with that wild bunch? Those cubs wouldn't stand a chance.
Oh my god, Jonesy, are you my spirit animal? Also, are there large enough communities of families around national parks to warrant specials about them? I thought the life of a park ranger during the holidays was one of isolation and desperation. But I will admit, this does look nice. I've always wanted to go somewhere other than my own neighborhood on Halloween. Like a cozy little cabin in the woods. But then again, I know what kind of crazy crap happens in those places. Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Nightmare on Wilson Way. No, this isn't the beginning of one of those creepy fan animations.
Hey, yeah.
And it really isn't important right now. You see, every year, Blue pulls the same practical joke, with unforeseen effects.
Bother, I can't seem to open this can.
Why does he turn British? Well, turns out everyone is wise to the trick this year. Everyone except Mr. Harriman, who dies of shock.
Beep, 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 beep.
Blue tries to bury him in the backyard, but Mr. Harriman just comes back as a zombie. Well, soon the whole house is overrun by the imaginary undead. And by imaginary, I mean, spoiler alert, it was all a prank to get back at Blue.
So you're not zombies? None of you want to eat my brains?
But the weirdest part is how quick the change is. Watch. Boom, no more zombies. So what? The green rotting flesh was all in Blue's imagination? How does that work when Blue himself is a product of another person's imagination? Yeah, don't get me wrong, I love this special. I love seeing Foster's decorated for Halloween, and there's tons of spooky atmosphere. I'm just always haunted by what the full extent of the imagination is in this series. But then again, I guess that's the point. Oh, that thing at the beginning? Matt can't have sugar. The Monster's Ring. Please forgive the subtitles, but I have been looking for this special for years. This is one of the Saturday morning story breaks, a series of animated weekend specials that ran on CBS. That's a phrase you don't hear nowadays. If Christmas is prime time for primetime specials, then Halloween owned weekend specials, with spooky ghost stories, mad science, alien worlds, and Halloween adventures. And many of these specials were based off books. In fact, CBS Story Breaks prides itself on this, as you can see by the book motif in the incredibly awesome opening. Because the best way to get kids to read is to get rid of that whole looking at words in succession on those paper stack folder thingies. While avoiding a bully, this kid named Russell comes across a mysterious shop, whose owner gives him something to help him out.
Inside this box is a ring, but not an ordinary ring. The Monster's Ring.
What kind of trick does it do?
You'll see, it's a sensation, positively amazing. And not only that, it's guaranteed to work as long as you need it.
Cryptic gifts given in disappearing shops? Seems legit. Well, spoiler alert, the ring turns him into a monster.
Huh? Was that me?
At first, he's not in control of his actions.
My aunt told my mother that she heard about a maniac who was swinging on street lamps and chasing cars down Main Street.
But the more he uses it, the more he likes it. How very Nietzsche. And since it's Halloween, Russell can roam freely in his monstrous persona.
Where did you get those fangs? Wow!
Oh, Russell, what a gross tail.
Huh? I didn't see that tail before.
I don't really know what this scene is about. He's not getting angry or anything, he's just becoming more and more gruesome for no reason. Unless he has a crush on Mindy, and this is a failed pilot for a Saturday morning version of My Demon Lover. Now, you would expect him to eventually abuse his power, but other than defending himself and getting his stolen bike back, he really doesn't do anything to his bully other than give him a good scare. In fact, he does more as regular Russell than he does as the monster. On top of that, he even tries to help his bully when he gets cornered. Well, the ring disappears after Russell gets enough guts to stand up for himself. Or maybe stand up for others? I don't know.
The ring is bupkis. I found it in a Cracker Jack box.
I guess I don't need the ring anymore.
Overall, The Monster's Ring is a Halloween story that kids can identify with, and an awesome creature design. Yes, I have many fond memories of this series, and The Monster Ring is high on the list.
I think my legs might be broken. I'll try to stand up. Oh! Yes, they are broken.
The Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror. Now you're probably wondering why this would make the list. It's a classic episode that started one of the longest running traditions in TV history, and all the segments still hold up today.
When you sold me this house, you forgot to mention one little thing. You didn't tell me it was built on an Indian burial ground! He says he mentioned it 5 or 6 times.
In fact, it has something I wish the newer specials would bring back.
This severed finger!
And that's the wraparound segments. I like how in the earlier ones they at least tried to integrate Halloween into the Simpsons main canon.
If you eat too much, you'll have nightmares.
Oh, yeah. Everybody in the family's gonna have a bad nightmare tonight.
Oh, yeah. 3 bad nightmares.
I'd like to see that.
And they really did give us some of the best moments in the series.
Fruit is nature's candy. Whoa!
But I digress. Why is this on the list again? Well, I was re-watching Hungry Are the Damned, and I got to the part where Kang, Kodos, and that third guy that disappeared after this.
Well, if you wanted to make Serac the Preparer cry, mission accomplished.
Are serving the Simpsons their favorite meals. And then Marge says,
Look, Homer! Radish rosettes! These are hard to make. They're a very advanced race.
Well, when I was a kid, I didn't know what a radish rosette was. And after all these years, I decided to look up the recipe. You know what the recipe for a radish rosette is? A radish. A normal radish cut to look like a flower. That means Marge is just eating a plate of raw radishes. And she loves it too. She's totally chowing down on it.
What are you looking at, buddy?
Your wife is quite a dish.
Ooh, thanks.
You can have any food imaginable, and you're just gonna eat radishes? That's like the last meal of a serial killer that wants to mess with everyone's head one last time. And I just know there's someone out there that's gonna say, well, actually, there are recipes where the radishes are pickled. That sounds even worse! Again, this is a great episode, a landmark. But I can't believe after all these years, after all the talk, after all the discussion, no one has ever mentioned how weird this is. Who just eats a plate of radishes?
Freaks! Freaks!
Freaks! Freaks! Freaks!
Mad, mad, mad monsters. You all know how Frankenstein's monster came to life. But do you know the story of how he took a wife? Oh, I guess you do. Now, well, this is still good too. Now you probably all know that I am very fond of Rankin Bass, but I like to remind you, every chance I get. And this is yet another lesser-known special produced as a Saturday morning movie in the 1970s. Now, from the title, you might guess that it's a mad, 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 mad world, only with monsters. And it certainly mimics that style of humor. But actually, this is a remake of an earlier Rankin Bass production, Mad Mad Monster Party? I was very tempted to put this on the list, but I'm not sure if I should. Even though this used to run on TV all the time as a special, it was originally released in theaters, making it the first and only stop-motion feature of its time. Now, aside from the styles and running time, there are a lot of similarities between this movie and the special plot-wise. Both feature all the classic Universal monsters getting invited to a celebration. One is a wedding, and the other is a retirement party. And all the monsters fight over something that Dr. Frankenstein has created. One is a super weapon, and the other is the monster's newly created bride. So he could finally stop playing with himself in the basement.
She can put her shoes under my coffin anytime she wishes.
Both assistants to the Doctor have a particularly bad case of blue balls. And I'm not going to spoil it, but let's just say things go a little ape towards the end of both movies. Also, there's just a variation on how similar scenes are played in each version. For example, in the movie, the mail is delivered to all the monsters over a wonderfully atmospheric opening theme song.
Did you sell your soul to the devil at that monster party last night? Mad, mad, mad monster party.
In the special, a good chunk follows a skittish mail carrier as he makes his rounds to each of the monsters' houses. This causes the mailman to take a leave of absence and go work for his cousin, the manager of the same hotel the monster's wedding is being held.
May I help you, sir?
I'd like a room without a bath for my friend, Mummy. in a bath without a room for the creature. For me, a kennel.
But it's no surprise that I actually prefer the stop-motion movie, because this special has a weird sense of timing. I mean, the movie has pacing problems, sure, but this has 3 beginnings. Yeah, the opening scene, Dr. Frankenstein is writing wedding invitations, and the bride is already alive. Then it fades to the doctor and Igor trying to bring her to life. Then it fades again to the same scene with title cards.
Anyway, how is your sex life?
The love story in this one is far more flushed out, and that's saying something right there. And again, I'm not going to spoil the ending. Also, all the motives of the characters make more sense. For example, I just can't understand why Dr. Frankenstein keeps trusting Igor to help him with the wedding, when he explicitly states he wants the bride for his own. He's been caught multiple times trying to sabotage the wedding. Of course, even then that doesn't make sense, since Igor keeps flipping back and forth between a bumbling servant and a disgruntled detractor. He actually does more damage trying to follow orders than on his own attempts to ruin the wedding.
Take the girl into the hills and hide her until the wedding.
And like I said, for a story that revolves around a wedding, we sure don't see a lot of the bride and groom interacting. We barely see any of the bride at all. She shows up occasionally with a few lines here and there.
Wow, it's fabulous. All these groovy guys fighting over me. Does every bride go through this on her wedding day?
Do you, monstrous...
Don't ask me. I'm just a girl.
It's supposed to be a big mystery about whether or not the bride is attractive or ugly, and it turns out, well...
You see what I have to work with here.
Or maybe that's just how you look after being dropped in a volcano, pecked by a pterodactyl, and getting your head caught in a landslide.
Right now, your bride-to-be is in a nice, warm, safe place.
It's funny because she's none of those things. Like I said, it's just weird that they would rework one of their older productions into a new story. Well, okay, not that weird. But whether or not you compare it to the old one or see it all on its own, this special has more than enough kooky, nostalgic charm to drive you mad.
Hey, did you used to work down at Joe's body shop? I have my own body shop.
I'm in an extraordinarily large amount of pain. Please? No one? I'll try the other leg. Oh!